Out of all of the skill-based weapons in Team Fortress 2, there is one that I think that stands out the most, with balancing so deceptively simple that it only takes 2 lines of text to get the point across. I'm talking about Scout's Boston Basher. Out of all of the unlockable weapons in Team Fortress 2, the Boston Basher reigns supreme in its unparalleled skill-based balancing, due to its simplistic stat line, the fragility of the Scout, and the emergent playstyles developed by the community. While other weapons rely heavily on a player's skill, none of them do so like the Boston Basher. But before I talk about what makes the Boston Basher so unique, I want to talk about how skill-based weapon balancing works and why I find it so interesting. While a majority of weapons in Team Fortress 2 rely on negative stats to balance weapons, skill-based weapons utilize players' accuracy and consistency to functionally balance the weapon. Often featuring a plethora of benefits with a single line of red text, skill-based weapons are a direct upgrade compared to stock until a player begins to miss. This is why weapons like the Direct Hit, Widowmaker, and Bizarre Bargain can be considered a direct upgrade if a player had perfect accuracy. However, there is an additional layer to this balancing: the class itself. Engineers' reliance on metal is one key reason why using metal as ammo is such a detriment. A majority of Engineer's utility is based on his ability to use metal, and using the Widowmaker increases this reliance even further. It's also just as much about the Engineer's abilities as a class, however. Take the Direct Hit, for example. If the Direct Hit reloaded every time you directly hit an enemy, it would be oppressive. Soldiers have a large amount of health, great movement options, and their biggest weakness is slow reload time on his rocket launchers. But since the Engineer is tied for the lowest base health in the game, with limited movement options, the Widowmaker remains relatively balanced. That's why I find skill-based weapons an extremely interesting balancing act. Each ability only works on a specific class. If it were any other class, it would completely ruin the weapon's balance. In a lot of ways, this balancing act reminds me of glass cannons in roguelikes. Designers balance the high reward of things like extra damage, extra abilities, or extra mobility by limiting the total health you have. But I do hear you, I'm getting a little bit off topic, and I know you're screaming, "What about the Boston Basher?" The Boston Basher is a community-created melee weapon for the Scout. It is a bloodstained spiked wooden club. We don't need the wiki, it's a bat with nails, this shit bleeds! The stat line for the Boston Basher is beautifully simple. Smack an enemy and they will bleed. If you're unfortunate enough to miss, you'll bleed instead. Compare this to the variety of weapons I talked about earlier, and you might think I've hit myself one too many times with the Boston Basher to believe that this is Team Fortress 2's most skillful weapon. But it's due to the Boston Basher's deceptively simple nature, the Scout's place as a character in the game, and the player-driven adaptations found with the Boston Basher that make it Team Fortress 2's most skillful weapon. The Boston Basher is specifically unique compared to the other skill-based weapons because instead of rewarding accuracy, it's penalizing failure. Not to mention that this is the only weapon that literally hurts you to use. The penalty for missing with the Direct Hit is the same as missing with any rocket launcher. On top of that, the Boston Basher also boasts the most efficient risk versus reward balancing of any weapon, I'd argue, ever, but we'll stick with TF2 for this video. Hit your shots and you double your damage over the next few seconds. This pairs well with a variety of Scout weapons like the Babyface's Blaster or Mad Mill, and while it doesn't do much extra damage, causing bleed on an enemy with Girardi feels divine. The penalty also allows the weapon to shine while limiting the number of players using it. Beyond them just being tragic downgrades, this is why you don't see the Tribalman Shivs or Southern Hospitality. They both feature negatives that nerf the utility of the bleed and the weapon itself, but the Boston Basher keeps its place as a useful tool when no other options are available. Oh yeah, I should probably talk about when to use this thing. Scout is a glass cannon. High damage potential, amazing mobility, and not to mention one of the smallest hitboxes in the game, but also tied for the lowest health, close range dependency, and a knack for finding the entire enemy team around a corner. There is a reason that a lot of people enjoy Scout but find him difficult to be effective with. Due to the delicate balance of Scout, each of Scout's slots is extremely important. The scattergun is your main damage dealer. If you aren't reloading this constantly, then you are playing Scout wrong. With a meat shot doing more damage than a Steam sale to my bank account, it's by far the most important tool in your arsenal. Whenever my clip runs empty, I can feel the hairs on the back of my neck stand up and instantly go into a fight or flight response, deciding whether I should run or whip out my secondary. The Scout's secondary, like for many classes, is a series of utility or in case of emergency items. If you've used your entire scattergun clip on the enemy, they are likely not that far away from death. A few dinks from your pistol and they should be banished to the respawn queue. While I tend to like the pistol for its range, the Pretty Boy's pocket pistol, cleaver, and Mad Milk all pair nicely with the Bast Basher. Scout's variety of melees tend to work best when comboed. The Fan of War, Rap Assassin, and Sandman all give you some reward for switching to them, using their ability, and returning to your scattergun. The Boston Basher is no exception. In my experience, its best use is to get close, smack an enemy, and chip them down while finishing the job with the scattergun. However, that's not its only use. Mini crits, Mad Milk, or really any distraction can allow this to do some serious damage while conserving ammo, which is extremely powerful for Scout. At this point, watching all of these clips, you've probably noticed I'm not the best Scout, but my argument has nothing to do with my skill level. The Boston Basher is the most skillful weapon in Team Fortress 2. Like any melee in TF2, consistently hitting the Boston Basher is tough, and even tougher when you take into account the Scout is the fastest class in the game. You can easily move too quickly for your melee swings and end up hitting yourself, a stupid mistake that will likely cost you your life in a fight. This is why I find the stats are so perfect. It's the ultimate skill-based weapon. In an instant, you understand what this weapon has to offer while understanding the downside. Just like Engineer with the Widowmaker, the Boston Basher is specifically designed for the Scout, not only as a weapon, but as a class. The Scout is a close-range, low-health class with razor-thin margins. The difference between winning and losing a fight oftentimes is just a few ticks of damage, which means losing any health due to the Boston Basher is extremely punishing. On the other side of the coin, applying bleed can allow you to save a few seconds fighting, or at the minimum, confirm a kill after death. There were plenty of times while getting footage for this video that I found myself using the Boston Basher right before I would die, and then it would kill an enemy. Or other times I would find myself accidentally hitting myself, and that little amount of damage that I took actually ended up being the death of me a few seconds later. I do think it's interesting to mention that the only other two ways to apply bleed are melee weapons for the Sniper and Engineer, two classes which also have 125 HP. If a class like Pyro had the ability to apply bleed, even on a melee weapon, the ability for Pyro to blast enemies away would mean that there is a lot less inherent risk in the weapon. It's the unique mix between Scout's playstyle, stats, and other slots that make the Boston Basher uniquely perfect for Scout. However, arguably the most integral part of the Boston Basher's skill has nothing to do with what Valve intended. Rather, it's the emergent gameplay that the community itself found that puts the Boston Basher at the top of the list. Self-damage has led to one of the most expressive movement styles throughout TF2, rocket jumping. And similar to Soldier, the Scout can utilize self-damage to reach entirely new heights. While not as flashy as a market garden or as safe as an atomizer jump, Basher jumping allows you to propel yourself in ways otherwise impossible in a moment's notice. Typically, enemies won't expect you to make certain jumps, and as you play with the Boston Basher, you'll actually find amazing flank opportunities to surprise the enemy. Take this flank on Patagonia, for instance. This sniper had been shredding through our entire team, and I knew if I could make it around this rock, I could guarantee a kill. Even better, the Boston Basher can also just be a split-second flank option when time is far more important than your health. I didn't know if I could make this jump on Sujin, but I knew with how little time we had left, I needed to do something. I whipped out my trusty bat, juked the enemy, and capped the point. While both of these clips may have been possible with the Atomizer, Force of Nature, or Soda Popper, the Boston Basher allows you to make up new jumps at a moment's notice with a skewed margin of error. I purposefully chose the word skewed because by Basher jumping, you are legitimately exchanging your health for time, ammo, or utility. I've also personally found I can more confidently make jumps with the Boston Basher than I can with other options, so by sacrificing my health, I can also make sure I'll actually make the jump. This further plays into Scout's low health pool by limiting the number of flanks you can safely execute before executing yourself. From the penultimate statistics for risk versus reward, to Scout's unique balancing, or even to Basher jumping, it's pretty clear why I think the Boston Basher takes a considerable amount of skill to utilize. However, there is one more technique that if I didn't mention, all 24 competitive players would instantaneously combust: uber charging. Medic builds uber faster if a target doesn't have full overheal. The difference in time is a whopping 40 seconds. And yeah, if you wanted, a demo or soldier could damage themselves. However, this is using a lot of ammo on classes that could always use a little bit extra ammo. A scout using the Boston Basher can effectively cut the time of uber in half by simply running the weapon. Not to mention all of the benefits that I listed before. Now, I didn't mention this right away because I play casual, and when I tried to get a medic to build uber with me, it didn't go the way I expected. I'm not going to blame the medic, but I do think this has a niche use that only a handful of teams will utilize. The Boston Basher isn't the best weapon, nor is it always viable. However, out of all of the weapons in Team Fortress 2 that put a player's skills to the test, it reigns supreme. With stats that insult you even if you're an ounce inconsistent, to techniques so niche you'll likely die trying them, the Boston Basher is truly an eloquent case study into designing skill-based weapons. According to all known laws of Team Fortress 2, there is no way that the Boston Basher can be the most skillful weapon. Its stats are too small and use is too niche. But the Boston Basher, of course, kills anyways, because the Boston Basher doesn't care what humans think is impossible. Bye for now.